Alright, hello once again, Jeff Scott from Rankin Technical College. I've been going over the online PDF textbook, AppInventor2, Create Your Own Android Apps by Wohlberg, Abelson, Spertus, and Looney. And I'm drudging my way through Chapter 10. And last time I kind of, put the code in here for the got value, but then we started to explain it and I ran out of time. So as mentioned, the TinyWebDB get value works different from the TinyDB get value. The TinyDB get value returns a value immediately. The TinyWebDB.get value only requests the data. It doesn't immediately return it. Rather, when the data arrives, it triggers an event called TinyWebDB.got value. And as mentioned here, you must also program that event handler to process the data that's returned. When this got value event occurs, the data requested is contained in an argument named value from WebDB. All right, and that's the tag that we requested. In this app, as mentioned here, because two different requests are made for the questions and answers, got value will be triggered twice. To avoid putting questions in your answer list or answers in your question list, your app needs to check the tag to see which request has arrived and then put the value returned from the database into the corresponding list. So in other words, put the questions in the question list, put the answer in the answer list. All right. As mentioned here in the screen to initialize, the app calls the TinyWebDB.get value twice, once to request the question list, once to request the answer list. When the data arrives, the TinyWebDB.got value is triggered. The value from WebDB argument of got value holds the data that was returned. And you can see that it was quite complex there because we had an outer if block and I think a couple inner if blocks. So the author says here you need the outer if block in the event handler because the database will return empty text if it's the first time it's being used and there aren't any questions or answers yet. By asking whether it is a list, you're making sure that some data is actually returned. If there isn't, as it says, you'll bypass the blocks for processing it because there isn't anything. If the data returned is true, the blocks go on to check whether the request has arrived. All right, as mentioned, the tag identifying the data is in the tag from WebDB. It'll be either the questions or the answers. If it's the questions, that value will be put in the question list, otherwise it's put in the answer list. You only want to display the lists after both have arrived, as the author says here. Got value has been triggered twice. All right, so the complete code is shown here in your book. But the author says, now we've done the make quiz, let's go in and do the take quiz. All right. Building take quiz, as it says, the app that dynamically loads the quiz is much simpler. You can build it with a few modifications to the President's quiz you completed in Chapter 8. Begin by opening the President's quiz in App Inventor, choosing Save As, and renaming it Take Quiz. That will leave your President's quiz unmodified, but now we can go and play with it with whatever we want to play with for the Take Quiz. So let's first do that. So we're going to do a projects, my projects. I'm going to open up the President's quiz, and I'm going to do a projects, save project as, and we're supposed to save that as take quiz. So in essence, we're making a copy. All right. Connection error is never a good thing, but I'm just going to drudge on. Report a bug. No. Fine, report a bug. All right. So that was the code for the make quiz that we just did, and now we have to add the code for the take quiz. There's not very much left in the chapter. All right. It says, next, make the following changes in the designer. This version will not display images for each question, so first move any references to images. In the component designer, choose each image from the media palette and delete it. Well, it's not going to let me get out of here, so I am going to have to reboot, unfortunately. It's a very short lecture.